Hi, this video is about uncommon 2025 AI predictions about AGI, GPT-5 or whatever they call it, Evals, AI agents, and enterprise adoption. Most of what you see here, I haven't heard other people talk about, if not just about everything in here in terms of what to really expect. There is a lot of hype out there, and there's a lot of practical use cases. I think I try to walk the right balance here between what is reasonably practical and what is, and kind of throwing away the more hypey aspects of it. Let's start with AGI. So first of all, I think that there will be claims of AGI in 2025, but they will be fishy. That's my way of looking at it. I think that there's definitely some goalpost moving that will happen that enables people to claim AGI because it's such a nebulous, unclear definition that somebody's going to be able to claim AGI, and they'll be like, all right, cool, we got AGI, even though it's not really the groundbreaking thing that most people want to think. For example, if you get really good scores on all the evals, is that really AGI? Or you pass one of these AGI arc measurements or whatever, does that mean you have AGI? Not necessarily. Personally, I think that there are, and I think I have a lot of information to back this up. There are major systems ingredients that are still missing from the equation. That means that an LLM by itself cannot be AGI. And I think this is incredibly valid and something that is very missed by the market in general. You can't just have an LLM do all the things that are really required to be considered to be AGI. So that's my first prediction. We definitely will have people who are like, all right, we have AGI, and it'll be like, okay, now what? People will be looking around like, everything's changed? No, not really. Okay. So you'll know that that's fishy when you see that. I'll also predict GPT-5 / Orion, whatever they call it with their next model. First of all, it's not just going to be an LLM. O1, Strawberry, whatever you want to call it, is not just an LLM. It has a chain of thought process in it, which is not an LLM process. It's using an LLM, but it's more of putting it within a software system, which they need to do, by the way. But it's still very LLM focused. And so I think this is also means that when you put it in the chain of thought process, it's kind of comparing apples to strawberries when it comes to the evals. So it's not really very fair to say, oh, well, we increase the evals. Yeah, you're going to get an increase because it's not just an in-out to an LLM, which is what all the previous evals were doing, pretty much. There'll be a lot of excitement around it. OpenAI and Microsoft and a lot of investors have a vested interest in building up the excitement so they can continue to raise money, so they can continue to essentially increase the value of their company. But when practical usage comes around, it will be underwhelming, and generally the underwhelming nature will come when people realize that it will, in most use cases, it will not be that much better than GPT-4 level from an LLM standpoint. It will do better on evals, but again, I think the evals are, and I'm going to actually have a whole conversation about this in the next bullet, but the evals are not really a great representation of progress in a lot of ways. In some ways they are, but in general, as we get further down this path, the evals mean less and less. So let's actually let's jump into the evals. So there will be more maxed out evals. There'll be evals that get 90+%. And I think that's part of why there will be excitement. It's like, oh, we took this eval and it went from 50% to 70%. And people are like, major step change. Well, not necessarily. Evals are a very, very narrow measurement of what's going on. I think early on with evals, and I think this deserves its own video because I think this gets massively misinterpreted, what the meaning of evals are. Early on, when the evals were really, really crappy and basically it didn't score well at all, going from 2% to 50%, that is meaningful. But as we get deeper and deeper down into this, an eval going from 50% to 70% is less meaningful. Additionally, evals are a very narrow slice of meaning. There's a lot of other uses, meaning that you can get out of the data, that you should get out of the data, that has nothing to do with evals. That is actually the majority of the information out there. Despite the fact that we want to be able to stamp a number on things and say this is what it's rating. Even if you look at the ratings, there's so many celebrated. There's a new model, top model, and it's like 0.03% better than the next one. And there's 20 other models that are within 1% of that model. Like that is happening a lot. And can we just please stop celebrating and acting like it's a major accomplishment when Google's model is now the top model, but it's by less than 1%. Maybe if they blow everything out of the water and it's way, way better in a bunch of different ways, then okay, maybe. Even then, you kind of have to look at the evals and think about what it really means. So I do think that there will continue to be marginal improvements celebrated as new models make it to the top, and people are like, wow, and also you have a lot of people, content generation people who want to generate the excitement. And their incentives are aligned with the big companies that want to present their models as to me more than what they really are. I thought maybe there's a graphic that I could create here, but I think a better way to describe this is to think about somebody taking a picture of the bottom of an elephant's foot, and that's all you see. There we go. That is the bottom of an elephant's foot. Is this an elephant? Yes. This is an elephant. Is this anywhere near describing what an elephant is to a full extent? No. This is what evals mean. This is increasingly what we're getting is a very narrow slice of what it means to be an elephant. And what an elephant means to us, this is what evals are. They're one angle of one part of an LLM, and it's not incredibly meaningful. This does not really give you the full picture. That is essentially what evals mean right now. And so when you hear about evals, please don't think that this means everything. Even an LLM that scores 100% on every single eval that's out there, that does not mean it is AGI. Please consider that. Okay, AI agents. So this is a really big one. There's a lot of hype around AI agents, and I kind of understand why, and I think that there is some validity here, but there is a massive amount of misunderstanding, in my opinion, about how AI agents work. I shot a video a couple weeks ago where I went into some more detail, so I'll try to put a link to that below, and let me know, and check that out, and let me know what you think on that video, because I think that really goes into some of these details. But in general, people will continue to struggle with agents. This is my prediction. And but they'll, again, it's sort of like AGI, they'll claim that they're amazing, and when they're not. There will be improvements, but in general, I think that they'll be still going about it very wrong. And as I'll point out in a minute, they'll be going about it from a very LLM-centric standpoint. And the capabilities of the agents will still be extremely limited, and but there'll be sort of like a little bit of improvements. I think that the everyman agents nonsense will continue. So what is this? This is when Microsoft talks about, and I think NVIDIA said this as well, we want everybody to be able to build agents, even somebody who doesn't code. And to me, that's like saying we want everyone to be able to build cars, even somebody who doesn't know anything about physics and engineering. Okay, I mean, yeah, you can do that, but their ability to do things really well and thoroughly and reliably is going to be severely diminished. I think this is not something you just want to pass off onto the everyman. I think that the best agents will be built by professionals who understand how to do software development and understand the flow of information and understand how to use large language models within software systems in a non-LLM centric way. But the idea, it's a really fun idea. It's a really interesting idea. It sounds really good, and it helps sell things to say, hey, just come in here and you can go into here and you can build your own agent. Doesn't that sound cool? Cool. You can build your own AGI almost. Like that's kind of what they're selling, and it's a bunch of nonsense. And I think this will continue for quite some time because it's pretty hard to disprove that somebody can't build an AI agent, especially with the distinct lack of understanding of how to build these correctly. Okay, my prediction in enterprise is that the slow adoption rate will continue. this will take quite a bit of time. I think it might take as long as 5 to 10 years before we really see a lot of traction in enterprise for AI. I think part of that has to do with a lot of the stuff I talked about up above, where there's a really big lack of understanding of how to build solutions that are AI powered. And instead of it being an LLM-centric solution, which is what I expect to continue, you actually flip it around and it should be a software-centric solution where you use LLMs to solve key problems within the solution that you couldn't otherwise solve with like non-classic coding. But if you can solve a part of the problem with classic coding, you should do that first. Additionally, when you have LLM-centric solution, you tend to shove as much of the solution into the AI model as possible, which decreases the reliability, which is why the slow adoption rate will continue. You know, think about it in finance or healthcare, which we work a lot in healthcare. It can't be unreliable. Like, you need reliability is super important. And the more you lean on an LLM to solve multiple problems or multiple complexities, the less reliable it is. The technology just isn't there where you can just like give it all the information and have the magic answer come out the other side. That's not going to give you the good result. What you actually have to do is put it within a software system where you, at each key place, you actually pull as much of the solution out as possible and have the AI solve, the large language model solve a very narrow thing, and that dramatically increases your ability to make it reliable. And then it's more of a software development process, and you use LLMs at a bunch of different places. And this is why the lack of reliability will continue, because of the LLM-centric solutioning. And I just don't think that this is something that will catch on for quite some time, because of the vested interest for these big companies. I mean, I think OpenAI is on a death train that they can't get off of with regards to selling LLMs as being very close to AGI in order to increase their funding. If they were to come out and say, you know what, actually I think AGI will involve a lot more things besides LLMs, I think the value of the company plummets, and their ability to continue on this death train, to continue to get funding for these very expensive endeavors, dramatically drops. And so even if Sam Altman were to intellectually realize this, first of all, he might not be able to, because there's a blocker there. He'd have to admit it to himself. But it also, he can't. He almost can't. He almost has a fiduciary responsibility to the shareholders to not admit this, to keep saying that. Hey, here's another thing they say. They say if you have a use case or whatever, we're going to handle it. Basically, the next iteration of GPT-5 or whatever is going to be able to do your use case, which is complete nonsense. I don't care if it's GPT-7. It will not solve all the use cases. There are certain things, and without a new set of technology, which I don't expect to happen, like a new form of AI model, there are serious limitations on the LLMs that prevent it from just solving all use cases. There are certain things that it just cannot do right now. And to say that it's going to be able to do everything in the next iteration or the iteration after that is a fanciful. You could call it a lie, or you could call it a hope, or you could call it a lack of understanding of what this technology is really capable of. Anyway, if you like this video, please like and subscribe for more videos like this. Let me know what you think in the comments. If there's any predictions you have, I'd love to hear it. Or if you have any counter arguments or support for any of the predictions I make in here, please let me know. And I hope you have a great day. Bye.